The West has always sought to keep the Middle East under its thumb. To conquer the region, the West has exclusively focused on winning the hearts and souls of Saudi Arabia and the UAE. But still, the region is now fast slipping away from the hands of the US and its allies, and the reason for this is the West's outdated and ill-thought condescending behavior towards other major powers in the region, especially Egypt. And guess who is now making the fortunes out of Egypt's growing frustration with the West? Russia and its leader, Vladimir Putin. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Atul Mishra, and if you haven't subscribed to the TFI Global channel yet, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to receive all the latest updates. And please install our Apple and Android mobile apps. The link is given below in the description. Let's begin. The relationship between Egypt and the West has been a tale of conflicts, indifference, and apathy. The root of bad relations between Egypt and the West dates back to the Suez Canal crisis, which began on October 29, 1956. The Suez Canal was crucial for Europe as it controlled two-thirds of the oil supply to the continent. However, then Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser had nationalized the canal with a tacit nudge from the Soviet Union and started arguing that tolls from the ships passing through the canal would be used to fund the construction of the Aswan Dam on the Nile River, which the US had then refused to build. Angered by the nationalization of the Suez Canal, Israeli, French, and British forces launched a joint attack against Egypt. This single crisis damaged ties between Egypt and the Western world for a long time to come. Later, in 1967, Egypt fought the Six-Day War with Israel, in which it lost the Sinai Peninsula to the Jewish nation. Later, in 1973, Egypt again joined Syria in a joint war effort against Israel. Two wars with a Western ally further embittered ties between Egypt and Western powers. Egypt and Israel did normalize bilateral ties in 1979, but there was no marked improvement in Egypt-West relations. Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization that came to power with the support of a US-backed movement, but started hurting American interests themselves before it was ousted in 2013 by an interim government in Egypt. It was in June of 2014 when the incumbent Egyptian president Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stormed to power. It was a watershed moment for the country as Egypt's domestic and foreign policies were soon to undergo a complete makeover. Right after assuming office, he started suppressing the Muslim Brotherhood by implementing policies commonly regarded as effective means of decapitating hierarchical organizations. In 2017, el-Sisi made a big move by declaring a nationwide state of emergency to combat terrorism. Egypt has become the flag bearer of the anti-Muslim Brotherhood movement in the Middle East. Taking into consideration the country's close proximity to Libya, Israel, Turkey, Greece, and Cyprus, Egypt under el-Sisi becomes a central power whose policies have repercussions on sensitive zones like Libya and the Gaza Strip. In fact, Egypt is the only country that enjoys close ties with Israel and is also respected highly by Hamas. The Hamas leadership understands that the supply of necessities to Gaza cannot be secured without Egypt's blessings, and also Hamas leaders get to visit Egypt without any restrictions. This makes Egypt a capable mediator between Israel and Hamas. With Egypt's highly prized position in today's Middle Eastern order is still dwarfed by a scarred political history between Cairo and the Western capitals. The West continues to hound Egypt and its leader el-Sisi for sins that Egypt's current generation never committed. Simply put, the West has so far failed to acknowledge and award Egypt's el-Sisi regime for its phenomenal efforts towards annihilating terrorism and bringing peace into the region. But now it seems that Cairo has run out of patience and it has started looking eastwards to shore up its economy and global clout. Sensing an opportunity here, Putin is now pulling a fast one on West here. In June, Atlantic Council reported that Egypt is cozying up to Russia in a way never seen before. Russia's state-owned atomic energy firm Rosatom had then made a surprise announcement that it would begin producing equipment for Egypt's first nuclear power plant in the northwest town of el-Dabba. The development had raised concerns in the United States and Europe. Russia has committed to financing 85% of the cost of the el-Dabba project through a $25 billion loan over a 22-year period. Egyptian Energy Minister Tariq al-Mullah in February had declared that the ties between the two countries were excellent. Last month, Russia had committed to fulfilling orders for cereal products to Egypt despite Ukraine threatening to disrupt food supplies through the Black Sea. And interestingly, South Korea, a traditional US ally, has also shown interest in partnering with Russia in order to expand its influence in Africa. South Korea has signed a 3 trillion won or $2.25 billion contract with a Russian state-run nuclear energy company to provide components and construct turbine buildings for Egypt's first nuclear power plant. South Korea wants to develop its EV and battery industry, and its relations with resource-rich Africa might come in handy. All in all, Russia and countries like South Korea are now expanding their influence in Africa, especially in Egypt, at the West's expense. This will make Egypt an economic as well as a military superpower in the region. With Saudi Arabia, UAE and Egypt sliding away from the West in the Middle Eastern and North African or the MENA region, Russia is going to become an invincible force. Egypt's partnership with Russia is a big win-win for both nations, where the former will see its economy and military grow at an unprecedented pace, while the latter will emerge as the only dominant foreign player in Africa and the Middle East.